listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We're the ElseNerds.
Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague, and joining me, as always, is Corey Scott. For all info on the show, you can go to ElseNerds.com. We'll have subscription links and show notes. And for all of the other Galactic Network programs, you can go to gncast.com. On ElseNerds, we tend to shoot our mouth off without thinking, so we will both spoil things and swear liberally. And we have a special guest, Jackie Hern, who is joining us. Jackie, how are you doing? Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I'm surprised you guys wanted me back after my fiasco of being on last time.
We kind of talked immediately after the last time you were here and said, can we get her back next week?
What?
Yeah. I don't know why it took so long for us to actually work up the nuts to ask you to return. But
are you kidding?
No, you could be a permanent fixture here.
Oh, I had so much fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we all just kind of like went around going, how did that happen? How did we pull that off? That turned out really good.
I was trying to think about this earlier. If Jackie is our first returning guest, or if that goes to, or if it was Sean. Because it was either Sean Burns or Jackie. I'm not sure who. Yeah.
Oh, it should be Sean, most definitely. No. Yeah, I don't deserve that title, but I appreciate that. Man. Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to have to make myself a little, puppet tiara. I've got a little puppet midnight cap. I'll put that on my head. I'm gonna wear my little puppet midnight cap as my tiara of being possibly, we're not sure, but maybe she's the first returning guest. Thank you very much.
Fair.
All right.
Yeah. So,
There's never
Corey,
reason to not crown you. I'm good, man. It was a rough night. I let a friend astray. I pointed out to my buddy Drake how great Vanessa Hutchins looked last night, and I guess it pissed off his woman. I don't know what happened, but Drake, you know what? Just deal with the bitch. I don't know.
Was that from the Billboard Music Awards? Did something happen there that I didn't?
No, this was at the McDonald's. We were just all hanging out at the Mickey D's.
Sorry,
some 10-year-old kid drove us there. He learned how by watching YouTube. The video he looked up was, how do you get diabetes? Take Drake and his friends to McDonald's. So
I learned it by watching YouTube, Dad.
I learned it by watching YouTube.
Right. Exactly.
Can we, just in case, just in the most limited of case possibilities out there, Jackie, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves or where people might know you from?
Oh. Why am I qualified to possibly make... Yeah. Why... Right.
Why are you qualified? Well, that's easy. You have a camera and a microphone. Duh.
If you had two turntables, you'd be Beck.
Okay, let me make sure I mute something here. I had it playing back in my ear there. Because I have not been a pro podcaster lately because I have not been podcasting much, which is kind of strange for me because I seem to do it a lot. I don't know why nobody wants to listen to my crap, but I do enjoy making videos, like sock puppet videos and claymation videos and stuff. And I don't know, I don't really know where you would know me from in particular, but I hope that you enjoy my silly little videos on my YouTube, youtube.com/Jackie Hern, where some of these characters are actually above my head. I don't know how well they come out on your screen, and I've got some sets behind me. But like I was telling you guys before in pre-show that like I realized it doesn't even look like I have actually set up a background. It now looks like I've set up a circus behind me, and I'm also a mad woman. And you know, at any moment, like 15 cats are going to start walking around in front of me. So, yeah. So that's what you would know me from. I don't know.
I'll say what. Well, I'll probably say it this way: like going with the sock puppet thing, you've probably seen them on Night Attack and
Yeah.
a few other shows.
Yeah. I'm kind of reaching out to other podcasts and stuff. I guess it's stuff I can't really talk about on, publicly. But I did some sock puppets for a few Feral Audio. If you're familiar with that network, who does podcasts, and that's as far as I can say. But not that I'm going to be doing anything for them. I'm just saying that that's what I've done, and so I'm kind of almost branching out a little bit, trying to almost take what I do, the productive stuff I do on my end, to a different level to branch out this entire community. Because you know what makes you guys successful and makes you reach out, makes everybody else more successful, because I think we're all like a very incestuous community, aren't we? Like, yep. Yeah.
The way I like to think about it is it's like the Red Green Show. I don't know if you guys know the Red Green Show, but at the end when he was doing his advice, he just goes, "I'm with you. We're all in this together." Yeah. And that's podcasting essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, particularly when it comes to us sort of what we love to call ourselves as geek and nerds. And sometimes I sleep, I lay awake at night thinking, I'm not geeky enough. I'm not nerdy enough. What can I do? No, I'm kidding. I'm just, anyways, that's, and also I like to think I'm funny when I'm not. So, so there you go.
I've staked my whole career off of that.
Thanks again for having me on.
No problem. But yeah, so now let's get into the news. The first news story is that the Dark Crystal prequel series is set to arrive at Netflix. There will be 10 episodes of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. This is being done and it's debut later this year. And it's a fantasy adventure show from the Jim Henson Company. From what I heard from other things, it sounds like his daughter is sort of like behind it a little bit. And yeah, so I have not.
Brian Henson and Lisa Henson, I think, have both been sort of upward portions of the company for a while. Haven't anything to do with the Henson Muppets or anything.
Yeah, so this is where again, and I'm not blaming the fact that it came out in '82 and I didn't arrive on this earth until '89. I'm not blaming that because I have the VHS out in my wall of movies out in the living room. I've never seen the Dark Crystal, or I do not remember seeing the Dark Crystal. So yeah, can one of you guys explain what the Dark Crystal is? I'm assuming it's about a crystal that is dark.
Jackie, you actually did research. Now, I've seen the Dark Crystal, but I saw it as an adult. So I didn't have the attachment to it. Same thing with Labyrinth. I didn't get to watch them as a child, and I think that there's something that changes how you react to it if you see it for the first time as a kid, and certainly as when it came out in the early 80s. I also know that the Dark Crystal apparently came out at the same time as E.T., which is part of the reason why it didn't reach a level of success that they wanted it to. So, but if you want to describe it, I'm going to guess. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you might like a movie starring puppets.
Maybe. No, actually, I did watch this as a child, and I have not watched it since. And one of my longtime boyfriend/fiancés lived together. It didn't work out, but we still, long time people who, he and I were both geeks and we loved Star Wars. We watched about a lot of things, but I remember him really being into the Dark Crystal and telling me about it. And like, really? And he's like, you got to watch it again. And I'm like, really? Do I have to? And I didn't the entire time. But I've really, particularly in the last 2 years, have been going back to anything that is puppet or stop motion. The Labyrinth on the other end, on the other side, however, I did absolutely love. But I also really like David Bowie from kind of an early age, not because he was during my time period so much, but he was like influences on people that I really liked. And so I really enjoyed that. And I know that film very well. This is one I didn't really get into so much, but I realized, oh shit, I really need to go back today and watch it. So I started watching it again this morning, and I have not watched the last 15 minutes, which is sad. But I know where the story goes. I know about the story. And yes, it is very slow. And it would be hard for someone in a modern age today to watch and get into. But on a puppetry end and a set design and all of the sort of creative, like, fantasy world, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and you should definitely just give it a run through when you've got the time to sit back and watch it. It moves very slow, and honestly, I learned a lot from it on the end of trying to create stories that are based on puppets and having a puppet act and interact, because there are a couple of main characters. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't watched, but there's Gelfings. There's these two. There's a man and a woman Gelfing, and they're very young. And it's about their sort of race and how they need to get the shard crystals to change the dark crystal to make the world right again in a way without But those puppets, when they interact and talk, I'm looking at them, and I'm looking very closely at their mouths and. Because I've been criticized on YouTube. I remember the worst criticism I ever got on YouTube was, why isn't the lip syncing up with the audio? And my response is, well, I did it within 2 hours. Right. I'm sorry. I thought when I rendered it, it worked, but it didn't. And most of the time I do sync it up, right? But in here, in watching this, it's not something that in our day and age we would have the tolerance for, because we're so used to all the CGI and everything that you just can't, you almost can't escape the fact that you are watching a puppet video or a movie. And so for me, it was nice. It was wonderful. I enjoyed my viewing this morning because of that. But I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So I don't know how well it fits to modern age, but I love the fact that they're going to do not just a remake, but a prequel, and add to the adventure, which may make people enjoy the old one better after they've watched the prequel. Or at least that's my thought. But I can go into the story and stuff, but I don't think we need to really, right? I don't know.
No, yeah, it sounds cool. Again, like as the one who hasn't seen it, and I will point out that it's being shot in England, or in the UK, and it'll feature Jim Henson's Creature Shop and Brian Frode, the original features conceptual designer, and then it'll be produced by the Jim Henson Company and executive produced by Louis Leterrier, who did, I believe, both Now You See Me movies, if not just the first one. Lisa Henson and Haley Stanford will also be executive producing. Rita Peruggi will serve as a producer. And then the other part that I think is pretty interesting here is Leterrier is also going to direct the series, while Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews and who they did Life in a Year, and Javier Grio Marksausch. I'm butchering names left and right here.
No, you're doing really good. I thought about this too. Like I looked up a lot of these people just to make sure I knew a little bit more about their puppetry background.
Yeah.
And you're doing really good.
He wrote on Lost. They'll pen the script and serve as co-executive producers. So yeah, it's funny. You're saying things about this that I was saying about my last pick for the ElseViews, where I talked about a British TV show called the Keith and Patty's Picture Show, where they did within a half hour. It was part documentary, part recreating Ghostbusters, and they tried the whole time. Keith Lemon, he's going, "We gotta do everything practical. It's just gotta be practical," and all that, and they get to the part in Ghostbusters where they're fighting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but so they go to CG and it's 8-bit because it's a TV show and they don't have the budget to do big thing, and they're like, "All right, we'll go back to practical," and it's Mr. Blobby, and I just had to laugh at that just because of how how funny that was. And then Jackie brings this up and I'm like, wait a minute, you could take that for here, but no. And then a Labyrinth sequel. I mean, I haven't seen Labyrinth. It is both of these are on the list of things.
You haven't seen the Labyrinth?
No, I haven't. The bad part is, and this might be the movie because, like I said, I got an Xbox One back here and I got the One S, so I can do 4K. And I'm thinking I might do the Labyrinth in 4K. That might be what I buy as, hey, look, it's 4K and all that. But yeah, I mean, and
again, I think it would be if you're really into, because I love CGI and actually I think I'm kind of burnt on it because I had an ex-boyfriend who does a lot of CGI for. He did the Cowboys and Aliens film and a couple other things. The Men Who Stare at Goats and some other things, and so I saw him kind of craft all that and I don't know, it just kind of made me, at that time even, it made me a little sick of what it was taking away from the art of stop motion and animation.
Yeah.
And now that I he was a little crazy, and I'm not just saying that because I'm crazy, because there's always two sides to every story. But however, now, I really I don't know, I so much more feel that, and when I see a movie where I think we've kind of passed the threshold where there's no longer a question of whether can you have a stop motion or puppetry animation show without having some CGI or I feel like yes, of course we have to, but it still makes me a little sick, and because I find myself not really enjoying the film and looking into it and wondering what part is what, and I think I've got a very good eye for it. I was, also a certified projectionist for years, so I've got that kind of eye to look for things on the screen. However, I just feel like it kind of, I don't know. I love the idea that there's going to be a new puppet movie, although I know this one definitely, as I said, is going to have everything mixed in, and there's going to be basically they're going to have one or two puppets with a green screen. It's going to be the same sort of bullshit. And
here's honestly my hope, and it's to go to The Force Awakens. They could have done The Force Awakens like they did the prequels. Where you got digital Yoda, you got all this stuff, digital, with the exception of, are they human? Well, then here's the actor. Sort of deal. Yeah. But they didn't. They had, which is where you also got a lot of the great cameos, like Simon Pegg playing, Star Wars nerds are going to bitch at me about the name, but the dude who's Rey's owner or whatever, and all that. And he's in the costume in the desert, trying not to have a heat stroke and stuff like that. Yeah. And, you see scenes, because I remember watching The Force Awakens going, what's CG, what's practical, and all that stuff. Right. And so that's where I think of
interfere with your experience a little bit?
No, no. Okay. Because my love has always been for filmmaking, You know, like it's one of those things. Like I always tell.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of those things. Like if I had, you know, I could do anything in the world, I would be a filmmaker. And so that part intrigues me. It's one of those things. Like I tell people, and now it's increased. But if I could go on a set and see one scene being made, it would be the scene in Cabin in the Woods where all the creatures get out and it's just killing all the workers, and you just cut into I think it's the kid. It's like the two of the teenagers are in this office, and you just see buckets of blood being thrown at the window and all that. It's like I'd want to see stuff like that, and you know, just to see how exactly they did that and why they did what they did and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think for me, what happened with the prequels was not even so much the CGI aspect of it itself being the problem, but it was the fact that you had real actors that were interacting with sticks, and you didn't have a buy-in. And when you're watching it, as good as the animation and everything was for it, you didn't feel a sense of peril for them. You didn't feel any kind of connection to them in the story. I think CGI is great when it's used like MSG, when it's a flavor enhancer, when it's something that you add in a little bit here and there, but it doesn't take up the entirety of everything in the meal, because it's not something that you're going to be able to stomach very much of, and you're not going to feel connected to it. You're not going to feel like this exists. You're just constantly looking for the fakeness of it. But when you use practical effects and CGI together the right way, and the people who are in the film and they have a sense of weight to the things that they're interacting with, then it works out, to me personally, a lot better. So I'm perfectly comfortable watching something that's completely animated, but I'm not as comfortable watching something where it's a person that's in something that's all animated, unless we're talking about a Roger Rabbit situation, that's part of the charm of it.
Yeah, and the other side is that because Evan's asking what about motion capture.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
the technology is getting better, and before I get to motion capture, Corey, you're hitting on a point that I want to echo, because that's why I can't watch the Spy Kids movies. The Spy Kids movies came out when I was a teenager, when I was like a younger teenager, and it was one of those, like, at the time I'm like, okay, yeah, these were cool, entertaining movies, but now to watch them, like, when they're on Cartoon Network and I got nothing else to do, and to see, like, especially Spy Kids 3, where it was set, like, in a video game, I'm like, it does not hold up. The movies that usually hold up more, you know, like, yeah, you can always tell it was made in this time period, but not, the effects look dated, especially for a movie that came out about 10 or just a little over 10 years ago. Like it was the case with Spy Kids, but it's the stuff that uses, like you said, the effects as more of a seasoning, not the whole fucking meal. But yeah, and motion capture, I mean, honestly, motion capture has gotten so good. The thing I think that needs to get better, if they're going to use it more and more, is using a younger version of an actor, like you've seen in Civil War and Tron Legacy and the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and there was another movie that used it as well, that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And you know, like that has to get better, because then it's like, I think Guardians was the closest with the technology, but even looking at the previews for
I felt a little skeeved out by the use in Guardians 2, probably because I've seen that person younger a lot, and it didn't look right. And I'm not a huge fan of the taking the person and making them younger in these things. It's I get why they're doing it, but it seems like Marvel especially has been leaning on that a lot. Because once they did it the first time, which the first time that I remember seeing it was in Ant-Man, and then in Civil War, and now in Guardians 2, It just seems that they keep doing that, and I'm not totally buying into it. And I know a lot of people had issues with the cameo scene at the end of Rogue One. I had issues with the entirety of a character's usage in Rogue One that was a little bit different. Because, again, it made me feel like, all right, there's all these people that are actual people going around, and then there's this not person. And every time I see them up on the screen, my brain...
Which one in Rogue One was that? I'm sorry that I don't know, because I've only watched... go ahead. Which one was it?
It's so what Corey is alluding to, and spoilers now for people.
You can just tell me the name of the character.
Yeah, no. There's two. There's two. The one he's referring to is Princess Leia. Because
yes, of course.
And then, also,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you go down spoiler time.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. This is the one that bothered
me. The one that bothered me was, and I think it was telegraphed a lot in people, anybody who's talked about the movie, was the Grand Moff Tarkin.
Mm-hmm.
Because that actor had been dead. In fact, by the day that I saw it, they were both dead. So that was even weirder. But at least Carrie Fisher had been alive when filming happened.
Yes.
But the entirety of me watching Grand Moff Tarkin is, I was looking at it like, okay, here's all of these actors, and then here's a cutscene from Diablo. It didn't quite click for me, and I know a lot of people didn't have as many problems as I had with it because they weren't de-aging the person; they were taking somebody who we had all seen in the other Star Wars movies and just digitally recreating him. But it always bugged me, like his mouth. When you look at his mouth, it looked very just black and hollow, as opposed to what you would actually see inside of a mouth. There are details and things that the eye can't keep from noticing, especially when it's on a large screen in a movie theater. So I was constantly taken out from that very differently than I was by seeing aliens and robots running around, because those are things that are already outside of the realm of normal for me. Like, I see an alien and it's like, okay, I've never seen that alien before in real life, so the movie's kind of showing me what that would look like. But this human being that I've seen, I'm reacting differently to.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I guess the point I was making about about this film and what I do like about Dark Crystal is that it's heavy puppet with some green screen, and the green screen is so obvious, but I really love and adore just full visual stop motion. I love the kind of the just sort of the genuine uniqueness of seeing certain items, and you could tell fully that there is no CGI, and I would dream for a movie like that with, say, on the level of Dark Crystal, but I know that you can't in this day and age. You can't do it without CGI. But I think with the full-on stop motion, I think it's kind of regulated now to just short films. And there was actually one that I watched recently that I absolutely loved, and I think it's called The Maker film, and it won several awards. It's like a 5-minute video you can watch on YouTube, but it's beautiful, and it's this guy creating another stop motion puppet, and so it's like I don't know, like I guess particularly in my world, I don't ever see myself working on anything huge. I see myself as keeping my sanity by doing the stuff that I do, just so that I don't lose my goddamn mind. I mean, which is why I podcast, which is why I do all these other things. And then I have my day job, so, but when it comes to these films and they use the stop motion or even puppetry, it just hurts when CGI has to take over and save the day. And then, like you were saying, even with Rogue One, like just to save the day by bringing back characters. Like, do we even need actors anymore? Like, do they? Right. How long do they need to even exist? Like, we're always going to have a Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. even though she died last December, she's going to be around forever.
Well,
Now,
that's the thing, is that
here's-
it kind of went back and forth after Rogue One, and when she passed away, is she going to wind up in Episode 9, even though she hadn't filmed member stuff? And there was a moment of, oh yes, we have what we need for that, and then it was a backtrack of, no, we're not going to do that. And I don't even think it was a matter of rights with the family and everything. I think that they had the clearance if they wanted the clearance, and they just decided that it was better not to do that.
Yeah.
Because
Now, am I the only one?
It feels like poor taste to me in a way.
Yeah. So am I the only one who was, I'll even throw it on the earth here, who was okay with both the Princess Leia and Grand Moff Tarkin roles in Rogue One?
I don't
Like,
think you're the only one. I just know that when I watched it, the Grand Moff Tarkin, for me, took me out of the picture. The Leia one didn't bother me as much, but I've heard quite a few people say the reverse.
I think the reason why is because I saw, and it could be a special feature on the Blu-ray that I haven't gotten to yet, but I heard that, or at least I think the reason why is the actress who played the stand-in for Leia looked enough alike, like Carrie Fisher, had the similar bone structure that Carrie Fisher did when she was 18, 19 years old and filmed the first Star Wars, that it made it look a little bit better. And I didn't really see that with the guy who was the stand-in for Grand Moff Tarkin. Like it was clear, like, oh, clearly he's, he looks nothing like Grand Moff Tarkin, so that's probably why it was a little bit more jagged.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I had none of that. I didn't have any problem with that at all. I didn't have any problem with Rogue One. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it all right. I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
Which I probably should have, because I have
I
a long
enjoyed the
Star
movie.
Wars background. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I found that it was a nice departure from the usual Skywalker Jedi stuff, which is what I want. I want an expanded Star Wars universe, although they still had to kind of keep it close to those things, and then they introduced some of those characters towards the end of it. But I at least felt like this is a first step towards doing something new in Star Wars in the films that we haven't had yet, and that got me excited. But then the follow-ups we're getting a young Han Solo movie, and that's, as much as I love Han Solo, and is certainly probably the greatest character from all of that universe.
Yeah.
I don't need a young Han Solo movie. As much as I like the actors and the choices that they've made for casting in that, and I'm sure it'll be a great movie, that is not what I was looking for, and I don't ever in my life need someone else to play Han Solo besides Harrison Ford.
Very good point. If they wanted a young Han Solo, they should have done it back in 1979 or
Although this is probably a better
1984.
move than using a digital facelift on him,
Yes.
and having him running around.
Yeah. That's a little
Like,
crazy.
why does 20-year-old Solo look like he's running around in an 80-year-old body?
There are enough starving actors in Hollywood who could do a great job. Just give them a new part, and yes, create a whole new adventure for us, please. Yeah.
And that's the thing that I like about the new films, is that I think they were second guessing themselves a little bit in the first one, but as they go forward, the more concentration on Rey and Finn and those new characters, I'm more excited about the new characters. But again, they're tying it in some way to the original stories, which I guess they have to if they want to finish off this 9-picture story. But then after that, as long as we don't get any more Roman numerals, we should be able to get new stuff.
Yeah. All right. The next story that we have here is that Tom Hardy is going to star as Venom in the Venom movie, with Ruben Fleischer to direct. Now, Tom Hardy is, as you might know, I think he's the third or fourth person to be. He'll be both a Marvel character and a DC character, because he was Bane in Batman Rise or The Dark Knight Returns. No, Rises. Sorry. And he's going to be in this the movie, the Venom movie with Zombieland Ruben Fleischer on board to direct. And this is all coming, when Spider-Man Homecoming is still 2 months away, or still a month away. Sorry, I forgot this article's a little older. And I guess the with how the article describes, the talks to the directors and the actors ramped up after after Hardy exited J.C. Chandor's action thriller Triple Frontier, and Sony saw this like, hey, there's our window, grab him. And Fleischer's done, like I said, the Zombieland movie. He's I think he's done some other TV stuff too, but I can't think of exactly what it is. And then Scott Rosenberg, who wrote for Jumanji, and Jeff Pinkner, who wrote The Dark Tower, a little movie coming out here soon.
I'm assuming Scott Rosenberg is the new Jumanji, or are we talking about the original Jumanji?
Yeah, I think so.
Whoa, there's a new Jumanji?
Coming out in 2017, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, no.
It's so... Okay, so real quick with that one.
Go. Sorry.
It stars The Rock, Karen Gillan, I think Jack Black, and then another person that they show in the pictures that I can't remember.
The Screamer, Chris... The guy who was just in the CIA
Kevin
movie
Hart?
with The Rock. Kevin Hart, yeah.
Okay, so, and from what it looks like with the pictures, because there was the picture of them in the jungle, and there was like big kerfuffle over the fact that Karen Gillan, like, this isn't feminism because she's wearing this Tomb Raider-esque outfit and blah 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 blah. And then they're like, okay, hold up, let's look at the script first, morons, before you get all blah 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 and stuff. And so I think he's writing that one, but I think the Jumanji one is supposed to be based off of the board game that's in the first movie, that's in the Jumanji movie.
Wow.
So they're all playing the board pieces that you play in the movie. So that's why they say she's, wearing the crop top or whatever shirt is, shows her midriff. And God, I sounded so old there.
I mean, I'm looking at the images of it now, and I mean, she doesn't look like, come on, she's not wearing a goddamn bikini.
Right.
Yeah,
and I don't know that you can say because of her outfit she's not a feminist. As a male feminist, I think it's up to her whatever the hell she wants to wear and whatever she feels comfortable in wearing in a film. And yes, it may be something that we look at, and she's very attractive to the male gaze.
I mean, but honestly, isn't Lara Croft kind of a feminist?
Exactly.
I mean, I always digged her because she's a badass woman who can, I don't know. All right, sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, that is 100% right, though. That is exactly it. I know a lot of women who played the Tomb Raider games because it was finally, here's a game that stars a woman in the lead role, and she kicks ass all the way through it, and it's like what guys have had for years, but finally there's one for us. And she wasn't stupid, and it wasn't just, I mean, there was some sexualizing her, and certainly the internet liked to go fucking nuts with it. But that's not what it was all about. She was a well, that's going to be a terrible word to say. She was a complete character. Let's go with that. And she was intelligent, and she was an action character and an intelligent character.
Ass. Right.
Yeah, and the comics and everything.
I mentioned in the notes that we could talk about Wonder Woman if we ever get to that. It's the same thing with Wonder Woman. But however, I think because I'm looking at the screenshot that or whatever they have on IMDb for the film, and looking at the 4 of the main characters here. If anybody should be insulted, it should be Jack Black, because he looks like shit. And Jack Black is one of my longtime heroes from Tenacious D and Mr. Show with Bobby David and all that. So, Jack Black, man, he's really playing up this character here with a big, I don't know. It just so yeah. I mean, they all look like cartoon characters, and I think that's what they're supposed to look like, right? Kind of in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. So back to the Venom article. No, it's fine. It's fine because I was like, wait, this dude's been around for a while. If he wrote the, Robin Williams Jumanji, but Corey brought it up right. So this is Sony expanding their universe while they still have the rights to the Spider-Man, the world of Spider-Man, while he's being shared with Marvel.
But as it's kind of been made out, is that this isn't actually connected to Spider-Man, at least not yet. So it's not going to interact with Spider-Man at this point in time, probably not until, at the very least, Sony's deal with Marvel stops. Because then they're going to have this question of, well, why is there a Venom and then there's Spider-Man, but we're not going to involve some of the other characters from the Marvel Universe? Or does Venom then connect to the Marvel Universe? They're trying to keep this sectioned off until the point where they no longer have to because of rights things. So what it's been proposed, and I don't know the background of this completely, is that the Venom movie and possibly their Black Cat and Silver Sable films are all going to be in their own Spider-Man without Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I was telling Beatmaster when we found this story last week, a Venom movie without Spider-Man to connect to it, to me, feels like the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. Because it has no bearing to what the character actually is then. And the whole point of Venom is it's built around his interactions with Peter Parker that makes him what he is, then becoming Eddie Brock, and then the actual vengeance against Peter Parker. So I don't get it. As a comic book fan, as not a huge Venom fan, but certainly as someone who wants to see things go from the comics to the screen that make the most sense, I don't understand what the deal is here.
Yeah, I mean, my big thought right now is the fact that, like you said, this is, Venom without Spider-Man. This is, and I think it's because of the fact that I'm of the mindset where it's like, let's just, give Marvel all its toys back and, let them, create these stories. That's how I know I've properly made a woman like laugh is if she snorts. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. But I think on like, and I hate to use a. Sorry, I had to go find Beats' quote or Beats' response to what.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Corey had said.
Absolutely did not.
No, I did. I had to because I'm like, wait, what was it? Is it something I could say? But no, I mean, I think with the Venom the Venom movie, the Silver Sable and Black Cat movie, these are gonna be Sony's last attempts at proving to Marvel that they can tell good stories with these characters. Otherwise, Marvel, aka Disney, is going to be like, here's money, give us our stuff back.
I don't know that Sony would have a problem with cut us a big enough check, but it's a question of what's a big enough check. It's not they have to prove to Marvel. They have to prove it to moviegoers. They have to prove it to people who go to see these films that they can sell a movie without Marvel's hand in it. And while that initially worked at the very beginning of the Marvel universe in film, and the Spider-Man standalone and the X-Men standalone and all these things, they had their successes at their time and certainly big successful films, but the returns on them became lower and lower as we saw how Marvel handled the characters versus these other companies handling the characters. And then there's Fox, who's had zero success with Fantastic Four, essentially, and still hasn't determined that they should hand that back over. They just don't know. They let Daredevil go back over, and you look at the success of the Netflix shows that have happened with that. They let Blade go back over, and we haven't seen Blade yet, but we got Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season, and the reactions from that portion of it were very good. So certainly there is an amount of, can Sony ever accomplish what Marvel can accomplish? Do they always have to go hand in hand with this completely other company just because they have perpetual rights until they stop making the movies? Or is it always going to be like, we'll just do whatever we can to get the bucks that we need to let it pay off in the end, and just keep throwing shit at the screen? Maybe. Sony's not going to give up the IPs without doing every last trick they can to make it a success. But what they haven't shown us so far, that one of the tricks in their arsenal is making a great Spider-Man movie beyond the ones that Raimi did, the first two. Opinion. Completely opinion. I did not enjoy the Spider-Man films.
No, I mean, and you're not that far off, because I did enjoy the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I enjoyed them. It's one of those things, like, I liked the... I like parts from both, and it's like, if you combine them both together, then you would have had, in my opinion, a perfect Spider-Man movie. And this is coming from, Spider-Man is the first superhero I really got behind as a kid. Like, he's at the top of my list and stuff like that. So, I mean, to see this, it's sort of like, that's why I'm always like, come on, Sony, just give Marvel back their toys so they can make some good fucking shit. That's why I'm always like that.
It's also, to me, I always get frustrated of, if you don't make something that's true to the origins and the best parts of the characters, then why are you doing anything with that license at all? Why not just make something new? And we're in an age of everything is a giant IP farm, and Marvel's part of the biggest IP farm, being part of Disney. Disney has now bought out two of the largest three, if you include Indiana Jones, I think, is part of that. But certainly the two largest franchises between Star Wars and Marvel, and then
Making
their
a
own
whole
Disney
theme park.
franchises.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's Disney shouldn't be an IP farm like that. And as Beatmaster is pointing out, Disney also owns Pixar, but Disney utilizing Pixar is part of, I think, what's killing Pixar, which is that they've just gone to, let's do more and more sequels, which was something that Pixar did not really do a lot of before getting acquired by Disney. They wanted, at first, they kept saying, Pixar, you should do a direct to VHS sequel to a Toy Story right after it came out. They're like, no. If we do another Toy Story movie, it's going to be released in the theater, and it's going to be just as good or better than the first one. And they didn't do the things that DC or that Disney was doing, which was just like, oh, you like The Little Mermaid? Well, here's a prequel to Little Mermaid direct to VHS. You like Beauty and the Beast? Well, here's another Beauty and the Beast thing that's kind of like just a throwaway story. The second Aladdin, that didn't even have Robin Williams in it. It just, they didn't care because it was an easy cash grab for them. And Pixar wasn't willing to do that. But now we're getting, not only did we have Cars 2, but we're getting a Cars 3. We had Monsters University. We had, what are the other ones that they've been just pumping out sequels to? And now we're getting a Toy Story 4 after Toy Story 3 put the perfect pin on that.
Finding Dory.
Yeah, that's right.
Finding Dory.
Which is perfectly sweet, but nowhere near what the first film was. And Pixar didn't used to be that way. And certainly the head of Pixar now being a big wig in Disney, his focus has been changed, and Disney's own properties, the new things that they've done, have been doing better and better. But they've been inventing new stuff themselves, which is great. But now they're also at the same time, like every animated film we've ever done that we don't have to pay the rights to, let's do another one of those. Let's do Beauty and the Beast live action. Let's do Cinderella live action. I don't really cotton to that. And if Sony wanted to do anything, they should be creating their own properties so that they don't have to always have Marvel nipping at their heels, and so that they could not have to constantly worry about, we have to put it on another Spider-Man movie. It's been 5 years and the contract's going to bust on us. Well, then get something that you don't have to worry about doing that with. So you don't have to have a movie out there just to have it out there and see if it tanks or not. Just make a goddamn new thing and make a great film. And if you want to make your own superhero movies, make your own superhero movies. But you know who did a really amazing job making a superhero movie when nobody else would make one? The Wachowskis, when they did The Matrix. The Matrix was we're going to make our own superhero films. This is how we're going to tell that story. And nobody was willing to make a superhero movie at the time. And they said, well, this is what we're going to do.
Isn't there going to be a remake of The Matrix?
Yes, but not with them.
Oh, okay.
At this point. But if you haven't,
but they're
check out their Sense8, which is
they're
really good.
also really busy with Sense8. I mean, working on that, killing that. I mean, that's such a, like Corey said, if you haven't seen it, check it out. They just released the rest of season 2 because they did the interesting thing of, instead of doing a special, like just a standalone, Christmas holiday special, it was the beginning of season 2 and all that. But yes, like, go check that out. It's on Netflix right now. Jackie, what are your thoughts on Tom Hardy as Venom?
I don't know. I'm okay with it, I guess, because it just I don't know. It seems like every year or every 2 years we need a new Spider-Man, or spinoff, but the definitely that whole weird dynamic of Spider-Man being the crossover between the two universes. I don't know. It's just it almost seems like a cop out in many ways that how or different the different movie companies are using it as a way to gather both, because they know that either, I mean, the whole Marvel versus DC is so, as I call it, an East Coast versus West Coast experience. Like,
now more than ever.
And it sucks. I don't want to fucking hear it, guys. Like, I mean, and so, but that's exactly what it's become. And I had a note for Wonder Woman that I wondered if she was getting a little bit of backlash because she's DC or whatever, but who knows? I mean, I don't really care. It's perfectly fine. But no, I mean, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really have any other thoughts on it. I wasn't really familiar with that character. I definitely did see. What was it? It was Spider-Man 3 or the
Spider-Man 3 is the one where Topher Grace is Venom.
Yeah. And so that's fine. That's fine. Just do your thing and roll with that character.
Okay, so I'll ask you this, because you've seen Spider-Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be and I hate to say it, but that is going to be a more accurate interpretation of the comic book version of Venom than this Venom movie.
Mm.
How do you feel about that? Because that's where I'm a little leery, because in the comics and in the TV show from the 90s that I grew up watching, it was one of those, okay, Venom came from space and got on Spider-Man. That's why he looks like Spider-Man, but
right.
in black and white.
Right. Well, I don't know. I just, at this point, I've kind of given up. My hands are in the air. Like, there's just gonna be this. I don't think it's going to stop. And I don't know. I think it kind of almost parallels the way that there are so mmany shows, there's so many films, there's so much entertainment out there, and then there's now more niches that people can get into, and I kind of feel like it's just sort of an expansion of that like, I mean, that's why we have a Wonder Woman film. We wouldn't have had one otherwise, but now there's room for it. But 10, 15, or in the 90s, we wouldn't have had room for it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. My thoughts are not very intelligent or smart or on point on this, but I don't know. It could be the Jim Beam I'm drinking.
What the problem is not so much even that Venom exists in a movie outside of Spider-Man, which itself is ridiculous, and that Black Cat and Silver Sable are going to also have to deal with being Spider-Man characters in non-Spider-Man films, or that Spider-Man is kind of torn between two worlds, like Access from the Amalgam universe when they crossed over Marvel and DC. It's really the fact that everybody feels right now that they need to create giant franchises to compete with what Marvel has done in their movie properties. If Marvel was making movies that weren't Marvel superheroes, maybe it would be a little bit different. But all Marvel does is concentrate on taking their IPs and making this giant Marvel universe. Now, how that's going to work going forward in a few years when everything needs to reboot because so many actors are going to leave these parts, I don't know. But Warner Brothers has the capability of doing that because they own DC. It makes complete sense to do that. In fact, it's one of those things. They've struggled to launch a Justice League movie before because they weren't doing that. They were just trying to create a Justice League film and not including the person who was playing Batman at the time, Christian Bale, because he didn't want to be involved in that. He only wanted to do the things with the one director he was already working with. They didn't include the Superman that they were working with at the time in Brandon Routh, which is probably a good idea. But now they've got this jump from Man of Steel where they're going forward and they're saying, yeah, we're doing what Marvel's doing, for good or ill. But at least it makes sense they're doing that. But for these other companies, like Universal is doing the stuff with their Universal Monsters, their Dark Universe, or whatever they're calling it. Yeah, which is because we own all the Universal Monster rights, so you're going to see the Mummy and Dracula and Jekyll and Hyde and the Creature from the Black Lagoon, probably, and all these other characters intermingle in a way that, whether or not it makes sense, but we want to have this giant balloon franchise. And that's the thing that I find frustrating, is because in some ways it doesn't make sense from a story perspective. It's just, we want what Marvel has. We want to do what they're doing because look at the success they're having. They're not thinking about the fact that Marvel built that thing to be successful by starting small and growing in a smart way. And because those characters all interacted with each other for 70 years in the comics first, it's like, no, we'll just figure it out. We'll just make something that'll connect them all. In the Universal's case, it's Jekyll and Hyde running some organization, even though that makes no sense for the character. But let's just throw it in there. Let's just see what happens. So you don't get a mummy movie that's going to be a mummy movie. You get a mummy movie with a spine on it attached that is this whole organization run by this completely other character that then has to lean into, and next we're going to meet the Bride of Frankenstein. And then next we're going to meet the Invisible Man and all these things. And it's like, but what if I just got a good Invisible Man movie? You know, what if I just got a good Bride of Frankenstein movie? Although it seems like there's been no shortage of tries at making those movies, and they haven't really been that good. The Dracula that they launched just a couple years ago was supposed to be a part of this, and that thing tanked terribly. So back to the drawing board with that. It's kind of like what could have happened with Man of Steel, but they just said, let's run with it anyways. I think it's silly to try to create a whole universe after or before the fact of trying to make a good movie. And it's one thing to say, hey, we had success with Cheers, so after Cheers, we're also going to do this other thing called Frasier. Sure, you know, because Cheers was great, and I know that it has to end, but I'd love to see more of something from these creators and maybe some of those characters. So I'll follow Frasier over.
Oh,
But
I love how you're very careful not to compare it to Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, because I'll get on your ass.
but that
Because
is
Better
exactly
Call
the
Saul
point.
is a prequel, not a sequel.
No, Better Call Saul is not a prequel. It is
Well,
a
it takes
it is a
place.
prequel. It's
It
a
takes
sequel
place
and it's
before.
concurrent. It's a sequel and it's concurrent. It is all of those things. So, anyways, but that's for another discussion or another time.
Gregor, it's a
Or
little bit
another
more
podcast
like
we'll
Sin
blow you up.
City or like Pulp Fiction, because it's stuff that happens both before, after, and concurrently, which is cool. But again, there were people who were hungry for more from the people who created Breaking Bad, and maybe they did not realize that they would like a Better Call Saul.
Well, I mean, on my end, yes, I was hungry for the extra stuff on Breaking Bad. I loved what Terry Gilliam and Peter Gould and everybody did in the writers and the creators, all of them. I can name them all for days. I loved what they did for Breaking Bad. However, what I love about Better Call Saul, is it's actually even more intense. It's very more character driven, but not only that, it is it's something that is it is very unique to the original creation. It is another story on its own, and because of the focus and the way that they bring the stories together, it is something very completely different. Because now, if you go back and look at Breaking Bad, it looks like it looks kind of weak. Looks like weak cable television to me if you go back to the first season or so. But anyways, I'm sorry. That's for another show, another time,
that's
right?
because they spent years building experience and working in a writer's room and getting better at what they were doing.
So why not make a better story?
Right.
So I don't know that Frasier.
Hold on, let's say
I don't know
that
that Frasier is better than Cheers.
I don't know that it's better, but I think it's the same sort of thing. Is that it's
But
very
I know
good.
But I know that the show's Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad.
Okay, let's save the Better Call Saul talk for a little bit later here.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to get into that.
Yeah.
No, we can skip right over that when we get to that point.
Let's get to the next story, because we still got two more news stories here, and these both should be fairly quick, which means it'll only take 3 hours.
That's the problem with having me on your show, is that it's going to last 5 hours.
Oh no, it's fine. It's great. The next story it's a two-parter. Black Lightning is ordered 2 series at the CW. This is the next. This is actually coming from Fox. It was originally going to be there. This is the next Greg Berlanti produced show, and then the other part of it is Black Lightning is officially not in the quote-unquote Arrowverse. So basically the whole thing of this is not going to be Black Lightning is not going to be a part of, in the same universe as Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Flash, and Arrow, which I say thank you.
Well, let's back up for a second, because what they say is at this time.
True,
right?
But I look at that more as what you said earlier. Let's tell good stories. Not, we don't need a 5-way crossover. We don't need a fatal 5-way match with the Dominators and all these other people. Sorry, I threw a wrestling term in there for fun. But the cool part that I have with this is some of the stars in here. I'm like, all right, this is cool. So Black Lightning is going to be played by former Heart of Dixie star Cress Williams, and then also in there are some people that you guys may not know, but if you are younger, you might know them. Like Nafessa Williams, China Ann McClain, who's a former Disney Channel star, and Christine Adams. So I'm assuming China Ann McClain is going to play one of Cress Williams' daughters. But this is the whole thing is going to be based on Jefferson Pierce, a man wrestling with a secret. He's the father of 2 and the principal at a charter high school, and he's also a superhero and stuff like that. I'm really oversimplifying this, but it's
a little bit like The Incredibles.
Yeah.
except as opposed to two superhero parents, he was the superhero and he gave up being a superhero because his wife asked him to and because they had kids and she was afraid he was going to be killed. So he stopped it and became a principal at a school, and it's only because of how bad things have gotten in their neighborhood and how fearful he is for his family that he decides to go back into it again. And what this is a very different feeling from the other shows, which is good. It distinguishes itself because it's about a father, which is not something that we've had in a lead character on one of these shows so far. It is certainly a different place, an urban aspect, an urban world, and we've got characters of color in the leads. We've got a lot of things that's going to make it feel gritty in the way that Arrow did, but maybe not so over the top in the way that Arrow was. It's a street level hero, and Beatmaster really compared it to the Luke Cage stuff that was on Netflix recently. I think it's very interesting. I don't think that saying it's not part of the rest of the Arrowverse is 100% accurate. What I think that probably means is that it exists on its own until it doesn't, which does not mean it's on a separate plane, a separate universe like Supergirl is, because Supergirl actually was in a different universe. She was on CBS. I feel like it's more, we're not concentrating on a crossover or any of that in the first season because we want to let this establish itself. But it could very easily get there. I don't think it's impossible for them to do.
Yeah.
If they want to, and if it makes sense for the stories, as long as they concentrate on it for the stories. Because the crossover stuff, while fun, and certainly the most fun I've had this season of any of the CW superhero shows, is not great. I mean, it's just a good time.
Yeah.
But it's not great storytelling. It's a lot of force feeding it to make it work in that button. But this is a cool character. It's certainly a good concept. It brings something new to it, and I like what I see of the potentials of some of the stories going forward. And Black Lightning's a great character in and of itself. And if they do grow the show to have more superpower characters, it makes a certain degree of sense to have him form an Outsiders team, since that's classically one of the connections that Black Lightning has had in the comics.
Yeah. So, real quick before we get Jackie's opinions, I mean, I just wanted to add that I do like this. I haven't seen any of the trailers and stuff for it. I like this idea, and this is something that I think I'm going to say something that Corey, you had said a while back ago. The problem I'm starting to have with the DCW shows that we have, to borrow a phrase that Tom Merritt coined here, is that a lot of these characters are losing their core. Like Flash, on Flash's whole season, and I haven't seen the season finale that airs tomorrow, he's been more like Oliver Queen, more, I've got to save my girlfriend, save my fiance, and stuff like that, and less, hey, I'm the Flash, I'm smiley, I'm just, happy-go-lucky, carefree. Well, not necessarily carefree, but, I'm happy. And, Arrow's, like, just getting so, like, more and more sour, with his outlook on life. And where it works, it also is taking it out for me with the Adrian Chase character, where I'm like, the dude's a psychopath, put an arrow in him, you would have done this. He would have been a 1-episode guy the first season. Why don't we just go back to that, and get something better storytelling in here. Supergirl's the one who's maintained her core, but at the same time, the plots are easy for me to predict. Corey, that's probably why you quit watching Supergirl, because if I can predict the plots, you're like, oh, nope, done. I already know how it's going to end. And then Legends is the one I haven't had a lot of complaints about, but Legends is one that I'm like, okay, this is the most okay, it's not a complaint, but it's, it's like DC's version of Doctor Who. That's how I look at Legends. So this is, I'm hoping it's going to be, it's going to be good. Now, Jackie, what is your thoughts on Black Lightning?
First of all, as you were talking, I was trying to get Tom Merritt on the phone. Because honestly, that was a very smart what you said about how he thought about the characters just kind of losing their core. And
well, no, he coined the DCW term on here.
Oh, okay.
And then that was, the rest of it was me, like they're sort of losing their core. I don't know, he might have said that before as well.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just a lot of them losing their core.
Yeah. It definitely feels like, I think that's why I haven't kind of dived in. I mean, I jumped in when Supergirl started because, first of all, she's a woman, and like I like women superhero stories, and I wanted to get into that, but I didn't really go beyond CBS, and when I went over to CW, and I don't know, it's just there are a whole lot of them, but however, this character, I wasn't familiar with Black Lightning, although I am not a big comic book person. I am to a degree, but only, I've got so many other things going on that it's kind of it's not on the level that like your listeners would appreciate, and they're probably gonna put right now in your iTunes. Why is she returning guest? Why would you bring her back?
No, that's part of the whole thing with ElseNerds is that we're all nerdy about our own things.
Yes.
Okay.
And certainly Gregor and I have
Okay.
a lot of commonality.
I'll talk to you about stop motion and animation.
You're a total nerd, and you get mad props from us on the stuff that you're into.
Okay,
Yes,
but
yes.
however, I do like the idea of this character.
Mhm.
I love the fact that he's a dad. I love the fact that he's from New Orleans, or New Orleans, depending on your area or your geographic location. This is one that I might actually watch and pick up on, but I am definitely overrun by the CW characters right now, and I don't know. It would be hard to commit. It was hard for me to commit to Supergirl in any kind of way, even though I really wanted to.
I'm gonna say this as the person here who watches a lot of the CW shows, reads 30 to 40 comic books a week and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, welcome to my world, people who are starting to get overrun, because that's how I feel with comic books. Like I was surprised at the fact that I've only got 12 comic books to read before Wednesday when I get more. And
I get that.
And,
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
one
did
of
that
those
for 40 years, man.
yeah. Oh, I'm about to get another long box because that one's getting full. But no, I mean it's So I mean I like hearing that because, and again, it's, I always look at my nerdiness as, if I could share bits of it, I'm going to tell with you, Jackie. Keep going with Supergirl. Because you'll get to a crossover in season 2 with the Flash.
Oh no, I already got there. Like
Oh, yeah.
I skimmed through and I got to that. Yes.
Yeah. Did you watch the?
That's actually the point where I stopped. And
Okay.
I was kind of like, there's too many shows.
Well,
They're just-
honestly,
they're just-
this is what I was going to say. So with that, if you got to the 4-part crossover that came earlier in the year, and then just watched that week to continue on the story, because they do hit at some parts, later on, just so you're not lost. And then when it comes to the music, the Flash and Supergirl crossover in season 2, watch that, because that will then give you a better understanding of what the Flash was supposed to be in the beginning, like how they had it set up, where it's it's Barry singing and dancing. Now, he didn't really sing and dance in season 1, but I mean, you could tell he was having fun. This was you know, and Corey has his problems with the episode, and I understand them. You know, I believe Corey would use a hashtag not my music meister or something like that.
No, I think it's a silly episode, but it's a cute episode, and you're absolutely right. It feels more like what the Flash had started with. In fact, I've been seeing Facebook Memories this month has been concentrating on when I posted this month of last year, the year before, when they showed the trailer for the Flash for the first time, and it was him and Oliver, and the Flash is smiling in the suit, and I'm so taken by the fact that the Flash is smiling. And even Oliver cracked a joke in the preview for it, which I thought was another thing. When Barry showed up as the Flash with Green Arrow, it lightened Green Arrow. But Green Arrow at that point in time still had joy in characters like Felicity. And that went away. They seem to be trying to break the joy out of characters that were the one things that you could rely on to bring a little lightness into what was maybe a dark storyline that week, or a dark storyline all the time on Arrow. And to lose that with Cisco and with Caitlin and Barry on the Flash just made the show a dredge to watch. And while Supergirl certainly is a more lighthearted program, which is sillier, but which is perfectly fine and suits the character, it wasn't the same to me. And I hope that they never go to that extreme with her. But doing what they did to the Flash...
Is it really fine that it suits the character? I would say not.
It does, because it's the show that they created for that character. It's been the tone consistently throughout. What happens
throughout their show,
tone. Yeah, throughout their show, and absolutely, what they were doing to Supergirl in the comics for the last 10 years before that was such a mess, because they just filled her with rage. They made her a Red Lantern for a while. She was constantly like, "I hate my cousin." She dated Lex Luthor at one point. A lot of things that they did to Supergirl in the comics was just them fudging around trying to make something to make her cool. Whereas I think the show help the comics find a better voice for the character now, because they're making her feel like a hero again. And that's what I want from Supergirl. And I don't want her to be that just because she's Superman's cousin, but there is something about wearing that S that means you have to present yourself in a certain way. And it's not an S because it's Superman.
I'm throwing up right now, but yes, you're right.
Yeah,
you are right, but I'm throwing up a little bit.
No, I completely understand. To me, it's a purity of what those characters are. I always get a little bothered, or more than a little bothered, when they try to make Superman a killer, or they try to make Superman dark, because that's not what Superman is about. That's not why Superman sold and became an icon to people. Certainly, you can do a lot of that stuff with Batman. You can do a lot of that stuff with other characters, but you don't ruin Superman. You don't ruin Wonder Woman. You don't ruin Batman by giving him nipples on his suit and having him fight in day-glow nighttime shit with Schumacher. It's all of them have the things that make them work, and to break that seems unnecessary and, in the long run, stupid.
Yeah.
I guess a refreshing thing for anybody creating any kind of super hero material based off of traditional characters, I think the refreshing thing from them is that no matter what, you're going to piss somebody off. Because if you put those nipples in that costume, it's going to...
I feel like that sort of got redeemed with Lego Batman.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like that got a little bit redeemed with Lego Batman because it made a great punchline in the movie where they're like, or they put nipples, or I forget the line exactly, but they cut to George Clooney in the Bat costume with it, and I'm like, it's a great line. The kids ain't gonna get it, but I got it, and I loved it.
Fair enough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Making fun of your past mistakes is not as good as not making those mistakes in the first place.
True.
Which is not to say anything about the people who made Lego Batman, because they're the ones who got to make fun, but they're not the ones who made the mistake. But it's still the long run for the Batman character. There was
an easier
part.
job for those guys. They got to make fun. Yeah. Exactly.
And you're absolutely right. With a character that's been around for 75 years, you're going to have good moments and you're going to have bad moments, and it's impossible to please everybody, and you just make the best stories you can. But I think that there are fundamentals. There's a respect for these iconic characters that needs to exist.
Not only that, there are enough people out there that are goddamn experts on every little inch of every piece of all of these heroes. And like, if you don't fucking try to reach out to them and bring them in when you're creating the content, then you're failing. I mean, it's fine if you're just like a fan creating like fan art. Like, that's one thing. But if you're a goddamn network and you're bringing in like all these shows and you're making them your own, if you're trying to connect a major thing like DC with CW, then you goddamn better well bring in the goddamn experts. And I'm sorry, I'm done saying goddamn it. Goddamn it.
Goddamn right.
Sorry.
Corey beat me to it. God damn it, Corey, you beat me to it. Okay. And our last bit of news is one that we did talk about not covering it, but I feel like it's worth covering because of the fact that it is news. And that is, our thoughts and prayers go out to Zack Snyder and his family, because he is taking a step back from Justice League to deal with a family tragedy. He recently lost his 20-year-old daughter. And so Evan asked, do we want to cover this? I'm like, yeah, because I got things I want to say about, the fact that because they then announced shortly then after that Joss Whedon is going to come in to direct the Justice League movie, and I look at this in a similar way of the filming of the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. A great movie, a movie I love on multiple levels, but it is known as Heath Ledger's last movie because he died in the middle of filming it. And the fact that they then got
right, and they kind of honored him afterwards.
Yeah, they got Johnny Depp, Jude Law, Colin, Irish one, I forget his last name, Farrell. Yeah, Colin Farrell to come into this part.
Right.
I feel like that's what we're getting with this. This is not, I don't think this is going to be Zack Snyder going, I'm done making movies. I think this is like, I've got to deal with this, man.
I hope not.
And, and I'll start off right now. I was like, because I had seen that, his daughter was 20. I'm like, wait, how old is Zack Snyder? When did he have her? I'm like, he's 51. What the fuck? He does not look 51.
Well, 51 is young, guys.
But still, I mean, I'm like, I would have put Ryan Seacrest, I mean Ryan Stiles as older. I actually do mean Ryan Seacrest. I was just giving Corey shit for last week.
Thank you.
I would have put Ryan Stiles as being older than Zack Snyder. But I mean, honestly, what I say is this is good on Zack because he it's a shame that for any parent to have to bury their child. I've heard that saying in movies. I've heard it saying quite a bit of a parent is not supposed to bury their child. The child is supposed to bury their parent.
Right.
And stuff like that. And so
loss on either side. Loss on either side is horrible. And this is one of those things that I have not been very complimentary to Snyder's films in the DC universe, and I take no joy in this. Absolutely not. This is one of those things, and we should be clear. Joss Whedon isn't coming in and directing the movie from scratch. Joss Whedon is coming to finish some stuff to help out on things. The movie was already filmed. They were going back in as most films do, certainly of this caliber of film, to help with some rewrites, to help with some punching stuff up, adding a little bit of depth to it, changing a few things here and there. But Joss is someone who has done script doctoring, is in his history. He's cleaned up things before. He knows how to write in someone else's voice and to keep things consistent. So Joss is already somebody who's working with Warner Brothers in a capacity as far as he was already planning on doing a Batgirl film. So he's just coming in to help keep things on track while Zack and his wife rightfully take a step away and deal with some things while they need some healing time. And it makes absolute sense. And Zack knows how the internet is.
Yeah.
And said, look, I was going to keep this private because it's very tough for us to even talk about right now. But I know that if I just disappear off this film, then everybody's going to go off and rumor monger and say whatever they want to say and believe what they want to believe, and they will anyways. That's unfortunately that's how the internet is that we all get to create our own narratives however we choose to.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know that part. That's a goddamn shame.
Yeah, he was very forthcoming with the whys. And
that
I appreciate
sucks.
Josh stepping
He
in.
doesn't
to
he doesn't owe us any goddamn explanation. You know what I mean? Like,
he absolutely doesn't.
yeah.
No,
But
yeah.
but certainly because of people like me, who sit there
too.
and are critical of his work, and you say, oh well, Warner Brothers is replacing Zack Snyder with Joss Whedon, so must be a sign that they're trying to change things up, and some people are going to look at that as a win, but there's no winning in this regard.
This is why people
It's not-
need to fucking chill and relax when it comes to this whole.
Absolutely.
So Jackie,
Just
I'll
take the film that someone's giving you and then fucking
Yeah.
enjoy it.
well,
you know,
no,
I mean,
I'll give you
Or no.
I'll give you the example here.
I mean, I'm sorry. I need,
I'll give you the example real quick for myself. In his last DC movie that he directed with Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, a sequel to Man of Steel. Using this and then bringing in Ben Affleck's Batman to launch this DC world in the movies and all that. And I never saw the theatrical version. I saw the Ultimate edition, and then I read what was added in. And I got mad because where I did enjoy that movie, I enjoyed the Ultimate edition. It's the fact of that they added the stuff in that made it to where I enjoyed it. And then there's other things like that I had that were are more nitpicky, but still I'm gonna nitpick. Making Jimmy Olsen a photographer or CIA operative
let's not tear it apart right now. Let's not go into that.
There's I nitpick that and all that stuff, and so it's that's where I'm okay, yeah, I'm harsh. I was harsh on him, but it's not. It was never okay, he's a bad director. It's just that's not how I would have seen it going, sort of deal. Like a movie with about Superman and stuff like that. And so that's where I'm I probably would have been wait, what's going on? And then when it came out, but I want to read a quote here that he gave in an interview, talk about it, because he was at first was going to come back and do finish the stuff, and he goes in my mind I thought it was a cathartic thing to go back to work, to just bury myself and see if that was way through it. He said very emotionally in an interview on Monday, with his wife Deborah sitting by his side, who was also stepping back from this. The demands of the job are pretty insane. It's all consuming, and in the last 2 months, I've come to the realization I've decided to take a step back from the movie, to be with my family, to be with my kids who really need me. They are all having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. So that's what I want to look at, because you look at, this is a man who his daughter was from his first marriage. Go ahead.
But no matter who the kids, from his second marriage, they're all family, and that's I think I was talking to you in pre-show that I know grief, I know pain.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us and your listeners definitely know it too. And what makes it harder is not only when it's your child, who's, like you said, I believe that they're supposed to die after you, but not only that, it's suicide, and then on top of that, it is you've got other children to kind of get through this with. My heart goes out with him in such a I'm about to fucking cry right now. This is the hardest goddamn thing to deal with in the world.
Yeah, this is where I was getting at is, you have with her, him and Zack Snyder and Deborah had been raising 7 kids and stepkids. So I think they're including Autumn in that. And yet, I was only saying because it was the first marriage, because she's, where she might not be Deborah's biological daughter. She's still very much her daughter and all that. But then it's like, you look at the other kids, and I mean, I'm pretty sure they're like, I think Autumn might have been the oldest. And so it's one of these, like, you got, like, you now have to have a talk with all these other kids about why this happened. And I know it's a hard thing.
There's no time for your own personal grief.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you guys even wanted to go down that road of this conversation, but yeah, no, God damn it, our heart goes out to you, man.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, like, all I can say as a closer to this is grief, or go home, or, be with your family, grieve, mourn, come back and make some kick-ass movies when you are ready. Don't come back for our sake, come back for your sake. Sort of deal.
I think a lot of creative ventures, at least in my part, like when you see a lot of sock puppet videos, that's when you know that there's something wrong with Jackie Hern. You know what I mean? Because that's when, like, I want to do something. I want to do something. I want to make something nice, but that also means I'm in a place to do it. Like, so you don't have to worry. But that is a terrible, hard thing, and I didn't mean to. I don't know, to go on about that, but I don't know the dude. I don't really know him. I did like Batman versus Superman a lot, and it pissed me off that, like, it got the criticism it did or whatever. But, like, I mean, who knows? Who cares? Yeah. Like, bottom line, man, like, yeah, that's yeah, that is the toughest situation to ever be in life. Yeah. Even as someone who doesn't have kids and probably never will have kids, I get that completely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, sorry.
You don't have to be a fan of the guy's work to have empathy.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's a really hard thing to kind of address, particularly probably in your show. Like, yeah. I don't know. All right,
I mean, especially when we're just, horse shitting around news and stuff. And it's like, and Evan's even like, do we want to talk about this? I'm like, yes, because, I've been that fan. I've been that fan that's like, that shit on his works here before. And if it would have said, hey, he stepped away, didn't say why, I've been like, ooh, wait, what's this going to do? Because I know he's heavily involved over there. And so the wheels would have started turning, but it was like stepping away for this reason. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I've seen people today see the headline, Zack Snyder stepping away from Justice League, Joss Whedon taking over, and react of like, oh, fantastic, because I love Joss Whedon, I love what he, not realizing, but they didn't realize
they
was
even
the
thinking.
deeper story.
Yeah.
Some people did. Some people were just like, I don't care why. This is just what I want.
Tomorrow.
But that's exactly it. Is that there's because people don't always read the stories. Some people just might be reacting in the sense of like, oh great, the person I want to direct DC stuff is going to be directing DC stuff, not knowing what the cause was, the whys of it, which is exactly why he spoke out at all. Yeah, it's really hard because people are going to then come at those people as the like, how can you say that? How can you be that way? And it's going to start people fighting who maybe don't even want to be fighting or have any kind of hate in them.
My God, over an issue that is terrible.
But then there are those people on the internet who just feel like, I don't have to show empathy for anybody else, or I don't have to act like a human being, and I can just say whatever I want to say, and it doesn't matter because I'm just an inhuman void. And I just, it's hugely frustrating. And that's why, like Gregor said, I've certainly had my criticisms on the filmmaking or story choices and things like that.
Of course.
But he's still a person. And I never try to attack him as a person. I talk about the art and my disagreements. And then he's also someone who's making art, which is far beyond what I'm doing. So me being critical is sort of bullshit anyways, because where's my art? What am I making that he can then be critical of? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I understand fully that I'm just a guy ranting about movies and characters and stuff on the internet, but I'm also a human being,
Of
and
course.
as a human being, I don't ever want to see that happen to somebody. And we just had Chris Cornell's suicide this week.
Oh God.
Which affects a lot of people, which affects a whole different group of people. But I think we all
Yes.
feel the same sense of like, here was this person that maybe I didn't know, but maybe I looked up to, or maybe
Yeah.
their
Mhm.
art affected me in some way and it changed me in some way, or it made me feel good when otherwise I wouldn't have felt good. And I felt a connection in that regard, and now they're gone. And I think that we should all kind of look at ourselves and say, maybe you didn't know Zack Snyder's daughter, or maybe you don't like Zack Snyder's movies, or whatever else. But just think about how you felt when you lost somebody.
Mhm.
That's what you have to kind of
right.
concentrate on. And
Yeah.
and if you haven't lost somebody, good. But still recognize that other people have.
Or like I was saying, lost someone, and then their loss affects the other people, the last remaining people around you that you love and give you reason to live,
Yeah.
and then you see them suffer because of it, and you've got to, like that is the most tragic part of that whole story, is that
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
That is going to do it for the news, and we will be right back. And we are back, and it is time for the ElseViews. This is the part of the show where, for once in our lifetime, me and Corey actually match on something that we are viewing and wanting to talk about, and our guest brings something that they want to talk about as well. So we're gonna do ours real quick, and then we're gonna have Jackie talk, because I've seen a little bit of Better Call Saul. I am incredibly behind. I feel bad about that, because I love Breaking Bad, and it was just like, I'm like, I'll catch it later, and then
Better not
other
feel
things
bad.
popped in my head, and other things popped in my way. That's how I preface it. But we're gonna talk Downward Dog. This is, I think, one of, if not the first TV shows to air or premiere at Sundance, the film festival. And this is filmed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this stars Allison Tolman, Ned the dog, Lucas Neff, Kirby Howell Baptiste, Barry Rothbart, and has the voice talent of Sam Hodges. And so what the show is you follow Martin. He is a philosophical dog. He is owned by Allison Tolman's character of Nan, and it's this heartwarming, and I might be slightly biased as a pet owner, but it's this heartwarming show where you're seeing all this stuff through Martin's eyes. In one of the commercials that Martin talks about, she leaves in the morning and then she comes back 7 hours later in the same car, and I thought I made it pretty clear I'd love to go on or be in the car for 8 hours, but whatever, to each their own, sort of deal. But Nan, she's a millennial who is extremely busy with work and doesn't have a lot of time for him, so it's him trying to get her to realize that he's the master, not necessarily that she is. So Corey, what did you think of the show to begin with?
All right, I think when you called it heartwarming, I found it almost as much heartbreaking.
Yes.
When Bridesmaids came out, we were nuts. We thought that movie was the greatest thing. My wife and I, we laughed our heads off at it. And our roommate at the time, who is one of my very best friends for most of my life, she is herself a crazy dog lady, which is something that she calls herself, and she's actually named her business that. She saw Bridesmaids and came at it with a completely different perspective, which it was the most depressing thing that she'd ever seen, because Kristen Wiig's character in that is going through incredibly hard times, and those are things that my friend similarly had dealt with. And so as I watched Downward Dog, I was surprised that in a comedy block on ABC, which are all very light comedies, we talked about the difference between multicam versus single cam last week. Downward Dog plays off of some of those ideas, which is we've gotten used to people talking to the camera more, narrating the show a little bit between The Office, Parks and Rec, Modern Family, where they're talking to the people as a sort of documentary. What Downward Dog does is that the only one who talks to the camera is Martin, the dog. Everything else is played out as a just general we're living our real lives things. They're not saying anything to anybody. The comedy of it was at points incredibly funny, but it was funny in a way that you can feel the pain that Nana's going through. Her life is not incredibly successful. Her love life has gone back and forth. She has an ex-boyfriend that she couldn't make things work, but she can't quite give him up. Martin is talking about he likes her and his drown yourself in a bottle of wine nights. You know, it's basically he's been enjoying the fact that her life is a mess because she's been spending more and more time with him. And as she's trying to improve things in her life or change things in her life, she's losing the amount of time that she's spending with him. And that's what's causing him to react. That's what's causing him to chew up her shoes. Or in the show, he breaks her project that she's been working on for work, which was the first sign of success that she'd really had at her job. So it becomes a question of, is my life about me or is my life about my relationship to my pet? And how do you balance the two things? And how does she get to live her life but still be a responsible owner and friend to her dog?
Yeah.
It was really, you're right, it's touching, but it's also one of those things that just kind of like weighs on you, because that's how I feel sometimes. I've got my two cats, and I don't like them being alone throughout the day, especially my cat who's 19 years old and gets around sort of okay, but relies on me to be at his beck and call for things. It's like I came home today, it was 80-something degrees, and it was hotter in the house, and he needed his ice water as soon as I walked in the door, and he let me know as soon as I got here. And realistically, that's how it is, because they can't do these things for themselves. When you take on a pet, you take on a huge responsibility. And it's not exactly like having a child, but in a lot of ways, it's very similar in the tasks that you have to do because they can't do it without you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked at the show, and I actually saw the show twice. I watched it when it premiered, sort of, because the Xbox addiction came calling, and so I was playing an Xbox game while I also had my tablet right next to me, laying on my couch, playing Downward Dog, thanks to the Comcast's Stream TV app, not a sponsor, and just going through and watching, and then I watched it again the next day while I was editing the podcast from last week, and I'm sitting there going, and it's like right then I'm like, I know what I'm talking about next week. It's this show. I thought for a second about talking about Into the Badlands, but I'm like, nope. Save that next week. I can talk about that next week. I'm talking about Downward Dog because it's one of those, like, I'm from watching this whole thing, I'm like, is this how my dogs felt or would feel about me? You know, a lot of times, because, you know, I'm the character, probably around the character's age of Nan. You know, I'm probably around her age and all that stuff. And, you know, I'm getting, you know, work is picking up for me to where I'm not home as often. And I'm pretty sure, you know, Gino loved the laying down on the bed watching TV time that we had and all that, or just being at his beck and call, like, hey, I got to go outside, dude. Let's go. And it's like,
my 2 years of unemployment was a lot of cat time.
Yeah.
A lot of it. And to then have me go back to work and be gone for all of these hours of the day and every day of the week. It's not like my cats didn't feel this pain of, but where's Papa? You know, where's my lap that I sit in every day? Where's the person who's always here to pet me?
Yeah.
And again, one of my cats is 19. I've had him for almost half of my life. I've had him longer than I've known my wife, and I don't know how much time I have left with him. And to not be able to spend more and more time with him is hard, because one day I'm going to come home and he's not going to be here.
Yeah. And Beats making the joke of when you have them fixed. I'm like, hey, I didn't have him fixed. We took him to a vet. He doesn't like those people. He loves me. He don't like them. But no, I mean, and I look at the show, and like one of the things that caught me is I saw one of the trailers. I'm like, that's Lucas Neff. Like that's Jimmy from Raising Hope.
Yeah, it took me a second to realize who that was because the beard makes him look very different.
Yeah, the beard and the long hair. And I'm like, wait, okay, nice. And it's funny because, leading up, I'd seen in the top trending section on Netflix, it's like Raising Hope. I'm like, just finished watching Raising Hope. I'm one of the people who brought it up to this. When are we going to get more? But it's like, no, the interesting part about this is, and probably my biggest pitch towards people who haven't seen this, Jackie, is that from what I've seen, there's only 4 episodes. There's only going to be 2 hours of this for the first season. That's what I've seen on IMDb with the, with Allison Tolman's only credited for being in 4 episodes, and she's the lead. Or if not, she's number 2 behind Ned the dog, who's playing Martin, and all that. And I mean, it's one of those, like, I look at this because, they probably could have done the casting of I'm blanking on her name, of Nan as, the, sort of like every other girl that they cast, where she's like really skinny and she's like, I've got so many problems and stuff like that. But they didn't. They cast more what I would say a real woman in here, and
skinny women are real women too, Gregor.
Well, but you know what I mean.
No, I know, but you have to be careful, because we have a viewpoint of, there's certainly a overemphasis of a certain body type in Hollywood, and it's nice to see more variety of body types and personalities and race and everything else. And that I think, but we don't want to discount one to elevate.
She's amazing in Fargo.
She was amazing in Fargo. Thank you. Yes.
So this is why I was getting to that before Corey had to stop all the hate mail from coming in. Is because there's the moment when Martin destroys the presentation that she was going to do, literally eating her homework. You're spoiling it. I'm so excited to watch this. No, it still works, but there's a part where she talks about the fact, because it's also in the trailer, where she goes, he still looks at me like he's madly in love, and all that stuff, like he's madly in love with me, and all that. And she's talking about her dog. That's the part where I don't think that would have worked if it was, like Beth Bears, like a Beth Bears body type actress, where she's like super skinny and all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, you're gorgeous. Not saying that, Allison Tolman isn't, but it's like that typical what Hollywood has casted body type that wouldn't really have worked and all that.
Well, no, I used to be gorgeous, and I used to be thin and skinny. And I just want to say I've always been a Catwoman. And I just want to say thank you guys for turning this episode into a Barbara Walters episode where you're trying to make Jackie Hern cry.
Oh,
because
also,
just like, obviously, just like you, Corey, I have a cat. He just turned 18. And I just switched him over to this wonderful cat food that I would love to play. Actually, when you ask me where can people find you, it's what I want to plug. It's this natural cat food that you can buy online. And he is suffering so hard right now, and it is so painful, and it takes almost all the energy out of me every goddamn day, because I know he doesn't have much time. And like, so yes, thank you for turning this into a Barbara Walters episode, because I will fucking cry after watching this, but I want to watch it because now I feel like I know I only have a couple of days or weeks or months left with this animal.
Yeah.
And I had 4 at one time, and I suffered through all of their deaths. So a few I had to put to sleep. One I watched die in front of me, and I know I'm gonna have to put him to sleep. And you know the pain of that, like it is so bad. So I know I just want to thank you guys for reminding me of that when I do podcasting to escape that. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, but
No, I'm kidding.
But look at it from that's part of the magic of the show is that
It sounds very magical. You're absolutely right. Like
for a period of time between being with my ex, who I had gotten the cat for her son,
no,
and then and being with my wife now, but for a period of time, it was me and my cat against the world.
Fuck
you know?
yeah.
And it was not
Sorry.
like I wasn't even going to take him. Like I said, he was for my son. And my ex called me one day and she said, "You need to come get your cat." One, because he hated them. He had a very definite taste for Filipino blood. But 2, because she's just like, he's your cat. You know, he loves you. He was always with you. He was always on top of you. And maybe in a certain degree, she knew that I needed him more.
Yeah.
But whatever the case is, that for a while there, it was just me and Dante, and I completely relate to Nan in this because you know, at this point in her life,
I can't
it's just
fucking
her
wait to watch this
and the dog. It's very compelling as anybody who's ever loved a pet, and certainly as anybody who's ever felt loneliness, and the only thing that kept them from completely succumbing to that was their animal. Be it a dog or a cat. I've got a friend who feels that way about her rabbits. I have friends who felt that way about their ferrets. I completely comprehend exactly what this feels like, and it's such an interesting thing to do in a show, especially what is being billed as a comedy, because in a lot of ways it's hard to make that funny. The character of Martin says the funniest stuff in the show. The rest of the stuff isn't as comedic because you find it too like relatable. Like, I've been there.
I'm
kind of surprised by this and the fact that it is on ABC. So that would make me a little wary of it. But I wonder, did you guys ever watch Wilfred? That was on FX a couple
I saw
years
some of
ago.
it, yeah.
I love that. I mean, but that wasn't so much about the dog talking. It was more about, you know, Toby McGuire. Was it Toby McGuire? Yeah. He was
it was oh god, now I can't think of his name.
Oh, the other one.
Right.
The other Toby McGuire.
I just completely blanked on
Shit.
Frodo.
Elijah Wood.
Yeah, Elijah Wood.
No.
Thank you, Evan.
Elijah Wood. Right. The other Toby McGuire. Yes, exactly.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. I blame it on the Jim Beam. But
No.
yeah, that was wonderful. It was a great little story, and honestly, it was never really horribly that touching as far as animals until it got to the very last season. And I guess if you haven't watched it, I won't spoil it for you. But I was oh my
Go
god!
ahead.
And I'd lost a cat at that time. My last of 4 cats, or the third of the 4 cats, and now I'm stuck with the last one. And I know when this one goes, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind because I will have nothing. I have no children. I have no husband. I'm going to fucking lose my goddamn mind. So, oh wait, I already lost it. All right, continue on.
The other part I'll add is, and it's one of those, I didn't realize this was her, but Maria Bamford voices the neighborhood cat in here.
Yes.
And that's the other part that I'm like, okay, this is brilliant, because you know ABC they have they have this tradition of doing like as the credits are going, they're playing this little bit that's not necessarily poignant to the plot and all that, but yet it works. It ties. Yeah, it's a callback to the episode, and it's one of those like from now on, it's like I want to think all cats, whether they be male or female, their inside voices are Maria Bamford. But yeah, so that's Downward Dog. It's the first episode is out now. You can watch it live on TV here in America on ABC Tuesdays at 8:30, I believe is the time that it comes out. And yeah, it's I'm expecting it to be really short since on the Wikipedia page, the IMDb, they're only showing 4 episodes. So it'll be June 6th.
Yeah.
It'll be wrapped up.
I'm still trying to determine if I'm going to have my best friend watch it or not, if I'm going to recommend it to her, because again, some things are just a little too real.
Yeah, and also I will add, this is a very British style. Like, this is a very British experiment that ABC is doing. I'm going to say saying experiment because it's mid-season, but this is one of the few shows where the creator, Sam Hodges, who also voices Martin, is writing 3/4 of the episodes. He wrote the pilot with Michael Killen. He's writing episodes 2 and 3, and then someone else is writing episode 4. So that's something that you really don't see in American television. Like, I think, I don't know about Fargo because I haven't seen it, but Legion, I think, is the only other show I can think of off the top of my head where the creator is writing the episodes.
Same creator as Fargo, by the way.
Mm-hmm. So, Jackie, now that we've exited the Barbara Walters portion of our show, I was going to ask you, Jackie, because I have, like I mentioned earlier, I have a very interesting relationship with Better Call Saul. I came into Breaking Bad at the last season. Was watching it through through all that stuff. I tried to get caught up to where I was watching with everyone else. I ended up being about a month behind. And then, out came news of Better Call Saul, and I started watching it, and I appreciated it. I think the problem that came into my mind, into why I quit watching the show, was there's so much fucking TV on.
Yeah.
So it sort of fell to the back burner until the point where it's like, oh well, I can watch it on Netflix. But then there's Netflix starts doing all these other shows, and it's like, well, I'll catch it eventually.
Yeah.
Sort of deal. So, explain to people first off what Better Call Saul is, and then explain why you wanted to talk about it, or why you want to talk about it.
Well, I don't have to talk about it, and the main reason that I was extremely excited about it is because probably the comedy that has shaped and formed who I am today the most is Mr. Show with Bob and David. That would be Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. You can watch their original shows on HBO Go or HBO Now right now. But anyways, bottom line, I started watching Breaking Bad because I heard that Bob Odenkirk was casted on the show. And he had been on a lot of things like Curb Your Enthusiasm and other things, but I was really excited about it. So that's when I started watching Breaking Bad. But why, like I was saying, I said it before, I don't have to go into it, but I think what I really like about it is that if you ever liked Breaking Bad, you're going to really love Better Call Saul if you just give it a chance. And honestly, this season is the season to join if you've been reluctant. Yeah. Because people have been reluctant because they knew that, like, 2 of the characters, Mike Ehrmantraut and Jimmy McGill, who was Saul Goodman, were the 2 main characters, but that was it. And where's Jesse Pinkman? Where's Walter White? But this season, they've definitely made the effort to connect the 2 shows together so much more in a way that almost makes me very uncomfortable. Because I was really loving and enjoying its own original sort of creation that they were developing in that universe. And I really wanted to see it go further. And but I know that it will. So Better Call Saul is a great story, not just about Saul Goodman, But it's sort of an expansion on this idea that all of us as human beings, we get to this point where we make decisions in our lives where are we going to break bad or do we not? And breaking bad sometimes takes you down a road that you can't get out of. And sometimes you can. And I don't know, it's a very I think it's a really great insight into humanity and the dark and evil that we all have in our lives, and how we get through life, how we survive, how we take care of our family, how we take care of the people we love around us, and or not. And anyway, so that's Breaking Bad, and that's all I'm going to say about it, because I know you guys, your times is limited, and if you want to hear more, you can follow the Lawyer Up podcast. I'm just kidding. That's my show on Better Call Saul.
No, that's exactly what you're supposed to do, is lead people like, hey, you do want to hear more, and you should listen to that podcast.
No, go check out my puppets. Screw the good and the bad. Fuck that. Go check out my puppets. No. See,
or just combine the two. Just combine the two and do the puppets on Lawyer Up.
Oh, dude, you don't even know. I'm actually working right now on a Los Polos Hermanos thing that I was going to like leak out and put out there, because I know that they're following my podcast, some of the creators and stuff. So like I want to plug that there and let them see like my little stop motion animation of Los Polos Hermanos. If you don't know what that is, that there's a chicken restaurant that plays a very important role in Breaking Bad, and then now plays a very important role in this season of Better Call Saul. No, I'm really excited about Wonder Woman, and I meant to have a photo so I could link it up. So as I was talking, you guys could see me when I was 5 years old, dressed up as Wonder Woman for Halloween. It was really horrible, but it was a costume my mother made, and I took it so seriously. But I grew up really loving Wonder Woman and wanting to be Wonder Woman, and so I'm really excited about it. And there's all these articles out there lately that I don't know, like everything I see so far, I've seen very few. I guess in the last week or so, we've heard that maybe Wonder Woman might be good. And then I don't know if this is a backlash on DC Comics or their movies, or is this a backlash on it because it's a female superhero? But some of the other stories you'll see if you do a general news search on Wonder Woman right now is that there's costumes for women being designed by Hot Topic. So you could start buying sweaters and skirts and other things created with the Wonder Woman universe tied in. And this is not something you would see with, a male superhero dominated. You wouldn't see with Batman or Superman. And my point is that I don't know. I just feel like give the woman a break. Let her do her goddamn movie and let's see how it goes.
I have a shit ton of Batman wear that would argue with you that this wouldn't happen with one of the guy characters. It seems like Batman's been on everything, but I do understand.
Sweater, like it seems. No, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
This is no, I know that.
I'm not a fucking idiot about the.
No.
Right.
No. This is what I.
Go ahead.
This is what I was going to get at is, Hot Topic is the store that is doing it, but it is. Ashley Eckstein's company, Her Universe, that is doing this.
Right.
Her Universe is one of those, as a reaction to the fact that I'm wearing a fucking Superman shirt. In my drawer behind me, I have, a whole bunch of a Batman shirt. I have, every single. I just bought four superhero shirts, but they're all in the man or unisex style, not for women.
Oh yeah, it's hard to find them in women.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
And to where now there's an interesting thing going on with characters that I like from comic books.
But these
where,
were like, did you look at the trailer that was embedded in, I think it was a Bleeding Cool article. Like there's a trailer where there's like this actually pretty hot looking dress that I would totally wear.
No, yeah, that's something that they started doing, that her universe started doing, because of the fact that like I was saying, there are some like sweaters and stuff on like We Love Fine that I, as a dude, want to own, but I don't think they would fit me because they're made for the fairer sex, you know, and all that. But it's them doing like, this is her universe in the fashion side, because Ashley Eckstein, she's always had with her universe, it's always been like part, like it's like the t-shirts and stuff, but they're in the maybe the baby doll style, or the I don't know any other shirt styles that go to women's clothing, because that part's a whole mystery to me. But or something more for a woman, maybe like a tank top or something like that. And then there's the more high fashion. When she launched this back in when was it? It was like 3-4 years ago, and they did a fashion line with based on like, I think just like just superhero characters in general. And there were some jackets where I'm like, those are kick-ass jackets. Like they had an outfit where it's like, okay, that's just a cosplayer. That's a cosplayer doing like a street version of Black Widow. Nope, that's stuff you could buy. Bullshit. That's too cosplay. But because it looked that good. It looked like the Black Widow on the, like, just out and about around town, not super cosplay.
I guess what I'm getting at is that, like, has there been a lot of focus? I mean, say if you were to do a Google search on Wonder Woman and do, news, is there a lot of focus on the actual reviews for the movie? Because it sounds like the reviews are pretty good.
The reviews are actually just starting to come out, because they just broke the blockade.
No, I know.
You can't review it yet.
But as we record today, they're out there, and yet I don't know.
No, there's a same thing with.
I'm totally reaching because of the fact that I'm on your show. Trust me, 100%.
It's okay. What I think was there's some trepidation, because as we mentioned earlier, some people did not react to the other DC movies very well. They've been both successful and criticized. Right. And so there's been a lot of curiosity as to whether or not Wonder Woman, not only being another movie in that universe, but also...
But she's a woman.
Because it is a woman. And because Wonder Woman as a character is so important. And Gregor and I have talked about this at length. I want Wonder Woman to be incredibly successful because it's Wonder Woman. And it's necessary for this film to succeed, because it's been so long. We have had multiple Superman films. Catgirl or something. We've had multiple movies with Superman. We've had multiple movies with Batman. We've had now the entire Marvel universe that still hasn't had a female.
No, it is very important. It is very important that Wonder Woman do well. Yeah,
but also because it's Wonder Woman herself is, to me, one of the giant icons. If you asked me tomorrow, if DC came to me with the opportunity of which DC character out of the whole Justice League would you want to write, as much as through my fandom in my life has been Batman related stuff, I really kind of want to write Wonder Woman. Because I see so much in this character that I don't think has been expressed in the last few years, because people just haven't seemed to get it. Every once in a while you get a great creator. You'll get a Gail Simone, you'll get a Greg Rucka, you'll get somebody who can do something really fantastic with
Brian Azzarello.
Brian Azzarello did a lot of great stuff in the Wonder Woman book, but I don't know that he necessarily did Wonder Woman right.
Yeah.
That's an argument for another day. But at any rate, I really want this movie to be great. But there are questions, because one of the problems I had seeing the previews for it as they were coming out was that she didn't say a lot in the trailers. It seemed like everything was coming from Chris Pine's character, Steve Trevor, or from the Etta Candy character, but Diana herself wasn't getting to talk a lot until most recently. The first real trailer that came out for it they started letting her story actually show up on the screen, and then I got excited again. And I want the movie to be about her. I want it to star her. I don't want it to be all these other characters running around and doing all of the like, we get the best lines and we can do this other stuff, and she just shows up in the costume and kicks ass. Yes, I expect she's going to kick ass. Gal Gadot kicks ass in the stuff that she's in. If you watched her in the Fast and the Furious movies, I'm not a big fan of those movies, but I felt like she had a real presence and it stood out. There is just something about her as an actress and as a woman that kind of works in this character. But I want to see Wonder Woman be all the things that Wonder Woman is, and emphasize things like truth and justice and power.
Fighting for her rights in her satin tights.
Yes. And she's got a lot to live up to as well because of that show. Because yes, that show is 70s, and the 70s silliness and everything, but it's a beloved show to this day. We still think of Linda Carter in that costume and as Wonder Woman. Yeah. And it's just as much an icon to me as Christopher Reeve as Superman or Adam West as Batman. Those things still grab me. And don't let go. So I want everything about Wonder Woman to be great. It's just that it didn't seem that Warner Brothers was giving the trust in the film for a while. But also now it seems like in hindsight, well, maybe they're just holding back because they didn't want to have to compete with the trailers for Guardians of the Galaxy, which is an established thing that they knew everybody was going to go nuts over. So Guardians came out, and it's been doing great, and now there's no worries about like we're going to get lost in the shuffle, because in the couple of weeks since, Guardians is still doing very well, but now we've got Wonder Woman right around the corner, and we can talk about Wonder Woman now.
And Wonder Woman is everywhere right now, honestly. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And
honestly, my main thing for Wonder Woman is I don't want her to fail, because my favorite DC female character has always been Mighty Isis. And there's no way in hell we're ever going to see an ISIS film. Am I right?
We probably won't under that name. They did a few years ago. They brought ISIS into the comics.
She was an anthropologist. I'm an archivist. I loved her when I was a child. And then there was that horrible show, Mighty Isis.
A few years ago in the comics, they brought her in a storyline called 52. And they made her the matchup with the Black Adam character, because the character of Isis, when she started on the TV series, it matched her up with Shazam, and there are similarities into how her power set work and how Shazam power set work and how they came from mythology and stuff. But by the end of it, the character kind of disappeared, and now the name is ISIS, kind of tanked, which is unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. That's the saddest. Well, it's not the saddest part about ISIS for me, but it's pretty close. It's up there. When I first heard the name ISIS, and what we all know of it today, I was just like, God damn it.
Yeah, and I appreciated when they started being referred to as ISIL instead of ISIS, because let's take that off the table a little bit.
No, the best one I have with that is the British TV show The Last Leg. They actually called them, because they call them ISIS or ISIL is too playing to their agenda. We're gonna call them a name that they're not gonna like. We're gonna call them Cis ISIS. And so it's like that, or I go the Philip DeFranco route of Goat Fuckers International.
That's my favorite. That's absolutely
that's all I had about Wonder Woman. Really, it was just that.
Let's talk a little bit about her universe.
We're like a week. We're like a week away, I think, or 2 weeks away.
Yep. Next week.
Yeah.
I mean, the hype. I don't know. It just. I don't know.
It's so. Here's the one problem I have, and this is piggybacking on DC, and this is, this is that everyone's like, oh,
if she
this
was Marvel,
movie has to be
would she
good.
be getting this kind of criticism? Go.
If she I don't think so. Okay, do you mean like if this was Marvel, like if she was in Marvel right now, or Marvel early on?
Yeah, I don't know. Just go. Whatever.
Because if it was
I have
Marvel
no right
right,
to talk.
if this was like her like in Marvel right now, I don't think there would be the well she has to be good, she has to set up this whole universe thing.
I think
If
there'd still be an era of that because of the fact that it would be the first female-led film, much in the way that they're going to say those things about Captain Marvel. But Captain Marvel is going to have the thing going for it or against it, depending on the success of this film.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman itself is riding off of the fact that Elektra and Catwoman came out years ago, and people are going to forget the fact that it's not about those movies were female-led films. It's because they were shitty movies. But at the same time, the first Hulk movie was a shitty movie. The Daredevil movie, a lot of people believe, is a shitty movie. So it's not so much that those characters were ever the problem, and there were certainly shitty films with guys in the form too. But people will determine whatever they want their narrative to be.
I am very intimidated talking to you guys about this, but I don't know if that's the right. I don't know. I'm looking at it in my small little world view of it. So
but that's
it's not as broad as you guys. So
no, that's what a lot of people think is because of the fact that this is the first female-led superhero that there's, and especially with DC, with the fact that a lot of fans, myself included, I feel like the DC movies, they've been trying to play catch up to Marvel so much that it's not. It was like what Corey said earlier,
really?
Where it's because they announced 3 years ago at Comic-Con after Man of Steel a slate up until 2020.
Right.
Back
and they can't
way
even get directors to stay on the films for some of those characters.
Yeah, and I'm
talking about the Flash, by the way. I'm not talking about.
No, yeah. And it's one of those things like I could see that play from Marvel because Marvel at that point had 5-6 years or more of movies,
and Marvel's been having success with movies like Guardians, which does not have a huge following like Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Marvel's been having success with movies like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, which are not known properties in the way that the Trinity are, or even Justice League is. So Marvel has been proving themselves not just with their mainstream characters, but with their second, third, fourth tier characters in their films. And that's why I think that they get more of a pass. Now, a lot of people are also very critical of Marvel, because, well, all the films sort of feel the same.
Yes.
And that's a very valid criticism, and I completely agree with that. I have also found that as they've gone on, some of the Marvel films for me have not been as successful as far as what I've enjoyed before. And maybe they're getting a little old, not just necessarily because they're repetitive, but because maybe some of the spark and shine is gone. Maybe we do need something different. But I think what I've seen, the reactions that I saw from Batman v Superman, even people who were critical of the movie, like myself, they felt that they really enjoyed Ben Affleck as Bruce and Batman, and that they thought that Wonder Woman pretty much ruled the whole thing. When she showed up on there,
really,
yeah,
and nobody liked Harry. It was a Harry Carville,
Henry Cavill. The problem.
I remember him from the Tudors, but yeah.
The problem with Henry Cavill and his Superman is the fact that with this being a Superman story, you then relate it to the other characters, and you get this is the Man of Steel argument that Corey has said numerous times, and he will correct me if I'm wrong, but because I felt like with Superman they sort of missed the heart of the character, like much like you will probably feel this way if, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but if they make Wonder Woman just straight out of left field, nowhere near any way of how she was in the comic books, how she was with with Linda Carter being her
they go
on
with the
TV.
Kathy Crosby version of Wonder Woman from the old TV movie.
Yeah. Something like that.
You mean not a dominatrix? I'm sorry. I'm going back to the original.
Yeah,
the original Wonder Woman, the lie detector.
But but like Beatmaster's saying with both Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. Superman in there is played a lot like a messiah, like a Jesus type character, which it makes sense because of his power set, but then it's also like you get, like Corey mentions, where you got Jonathan Kent, who does not behave like Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Kent would not say, don't show your powers or let me die out of fear and stuff like that.
For me, Clark was always an incredibly human person who had extraordinary abilities. Even though he was an alien, he was raised by human parents who taught him what humanity was about. And so when I've watched these films, I don't get that connection to the Superman on the screen in the way that I feel like I should. But I'm spoiled by things like Christopher Reeve's version of the character.
Yeah.
I'm spoiled by the comics that I read for a long time. And it seemed to me that watching Man of Steel, it was like watching Superman from the outside. You never really get into his head. You never really get into his real motivations. And when I watched Batman v Superman, that's kind of what they did with Wonder Woman too, because she's a mystery in it.
So you didn't get that with Man of Steel, but so are you saying you didn't get it with Man of Steel, or you didn't get it with Batman versus Superman?
I got even less of it in Batman versus Superman. It seemed like he was hardly a character in it.
Of course, but we just got Man of Steel, so like coming from
but
that,
I didn't feel it in Man of Steel either.
Okay.
In Man of Steel, I felt like part of it is the fact that everybody treated him as suspect. And it bothered me. And I didn't like the way that they tried to motivate the character in the first place with Jonathan's death, with the maybe you shouldn't save the kids on the bus. That kind of stuff did not work for me in the way that Clark was raised. Clark was raised with a belief that life counts above all else, and protecting others counts above all else, and family counts above all else. And so it changed the dynamic of what Superman was to me. Now, I'm not saying they can't fix that, and I have nothing against Henry Cavill as the actor in the role. I just didn't enjoy what they gave him as a story to work with. I felt like from the previews and stuff I saw for the movie, I was sold a film that was going to be one thing, and then when I sat there and watched it, it was something else entirely. And so that's how I reacted to it. But again, it's not to say that I'm right. It's just that what I want out of a Superman film was not what they gave me. I felt much more in tune with the idea of what Superman was from things like the Iron Giant. That to me spoke more of what I see as heroism. But again, we're talking about Superman in a Wonder Woman segment. Wonder Woman matters to me more because she's not Superman, she's not Batman, and we can't treat her the same as we treat those characters. I don't want her to be treated the same, and I want her mythology to be a part of the whole story. So it's not just I want Wonder Woman fighting Nazis, even though that's where she started out, and that's not what she's going to be in this because they put her before that. I want to understand her connection to the Amazons. I want to understand her connection to her heritage, to the gods and everything else. I want to explore all that stuff because that's what makes her so amazing. She encompasses so many different things. And on top of that, she's a warrior, but she's also a peacemaker. You know, she's someone who goes to people and tries to stop war before fighting. And I was worried again because
she'll make a hawk a dove.
She kicks so much ass in Batman v Superman, but I like her even more when she's not physically kicking ass. There's just so much about her that I really respect and love as a character, and I just want to see them get that right. And so I don't want it to be a action movie just for the sake of being an action movie, but at the same time, they need to put some of that in there because maybe guys aren't going to go see that movie if that's not there. You know, how many men saw Tomb Raider in the theater when it came out? I don't know. I don't know how the film did off the top of my head. But I'm hoping that they will be able to look past the fact that this is a film starring a female lead and a female character, and they're not going to have to trick people and the way that Disney did by saying, well, we can't name our princess movies after princesses. We have to call it Tangled. You know, we have to call it Brave. We have to do these things to make you not realize that this is going to be a movie starring a woman. I think that Wonder Woman should be front and center in her own film.
Well, hey, I'm going to make a suggestion to you guys publicly, because I know we got to wrap this up. But I want to say this in front of the world that if you don't have someone in the next month or the weeks following the release of Wonder Woman, and we've all seen it, I would love to come back and talk about it with you guys.
Open invitation.
Okay, all right. So I just plugged myself there. Yay! Okay, but that's fine. You're going to have a million other people who are going to be much more educated and better to talk about it than I will be.
There is a point in time for getting the educated people on there, and also to throw in there, Corey, the box office for the first Tomb Raider, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, that starred Angelina Jolie, was $274.7 million. They had a budget of $115.
Yeah, so not a runaway success of the action superhero genre stuff today, but still, I mean, it earned itself a sequel.
Yeah, but I mean, because with this, like, honestly, like Corey said earlier, our show here is about what the things that we are passionate about. You are passionate, Jackie, about Wonder Woman because you grew up, with Wonder Woman. That's much why you saw a little bit of the passion when in the Venom story, because I grew up on Spider-Man. Spider-Man was the guy that I watched, because that was what on Saturday morning cartoons.
I always dig Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's one of those, like, he'll always be the first superhero that I really got into, and then it later expanded to the X-Men and to Iron Man, and I think Fantastic Four had one out at the same time, and then later went with X-Men and X-Men and X-Men because they kept doing X-Men cartoon shows, and then occasionally would do a Spider-Man show. I sort of missed the MTV one, by the way, with Neil Patrick Harris voicing Spider-Man. But I mean, and it's one of those, like, we could, if we could, get someone who knows, like, who's like, deep Marvel or DC or, specific character history on here, great, but if we can get passionate people in here talking about the stuff that they like, like why they liked it, why they didn't like it, even better, because I mean, then it's like, real people, like, hey, like, well, Jackie seems like a sort of person like I am, and she, loved the movie. I think I'm gonna love the movie too. That's how I always look at it. Like, I always look at people like, it seems like they have a similar opinion that I do. So, what do they think of this?
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I talked about this, I think, a little bit last week. My wife is not into comic books. My wife is not into the Marvel or DC universe stuff or anything. She likes Spider-Man somewhat, and I remember seeing those movies with her, the first one at least. But honestly, I was super excited when I got to take her the first time to see Guardians of the Galaxy. I went and saw it by myself because that's the way I usually do the superhero movie stuff, as I go and I see it by myself, and I just like, that's how it is. When I saw it, I instantly said, my wife is going to like this movie. My wife will want to see this movie. And so I took her to see it, and she loved it. And then I think she bought me the Blu-ray for it and everything. And then when the second one came out, I just kind of waited to see if she was going to have the interest to go see this one. And yeah, she's like, yeah, we got to go see that. We saw it together. And again, she loved it. And that makes a difference to me because she's not the super fan. But I am her fan, and her enjoying this matters to me. It makes me enjoy it that much more. It's something that we get to share together, and she doesn't come at it from the years and years of reading the comics and knowing the history and the creators and everything else. She comes at it as it was just a great movie. And sometimes that's all we need someone on here to say is that, did you like this movie? Not because you're a Marvel person or a DC person or a Valiant person or whatever, but just because did this movie, it's better in some ways that you don't have that history, because you just come into it without an expectation and you just say, yeah, this movie was great. I was excited. I was happy. this is exactly what I wanted to see from it. That to me is just as important, if not more important, than our opinions as nerds.
In all honesty, I mean, Jackie, thank you again for being here with us. You know, it was great. You know, I mean, even if you aren't the first person to come back, I'm going to count it anyways because, I mean, Sean's like family as well. You're family, but you know.
Oh no, Sean should be the first. No, he's amazing.
But no, so I mean, in all honesty, thank you for coming back and joining us and bringing, you know, these great point of views to things that, you know, we might not think about because, you know, we do tend to get in ruts from time to time with like, oh, here Corey's going to say this thing now Greg's going to counter with this.
I appreciate that.
And,
anytime you need a naive, uneducated version of somebody who seems to love and enjoy all of this stuff but doesn't know shit about it, invite me back.
You have an open invitation, like Corey said. But so we plugged the. Where do you want people to go to find? Like, where would be a good place for people to go to find out more about Jackie Hern and all the things that she does?
If you really want to know like the most about me, you can stalk me on Twitter. I'm at Jackie Hern 81, and that's where, particularly in the middle of the night. In the U.S. time, I'm posting things that I delete early in the morning because I realize they're very inappropriate. So you can do that, or I've got JackieHern.com, but I don't ever update it. Honestly, like I would love for you to follow my YouTube. YouTube.com/Jackie Hern, where I'm posting videos. I'm going to be doing a shit ton of them in the next couple months, but I got a little Patreon thing going where I post I'm working on, because we talked about stop motion versus animation. I'm working on trying to create more animation, stop motion combined with puppetry. And my Patreon is not something where I really want your money, particularly if you have a Patreon. Give me $1, I'll give you the $1 right back, because these days with Patreon, you can't really make any goddamn money. So the benefit of it is networking. And so that's why I would totally like, you know, the point is that I want to get that out and I want to do something short term. And then once it's done, then I want to find people who actually do CGI. That's not my ex-boyfriend that I mentioned early in the show, who's an asshole. Oh man, just shut me up. The Jim Bean is talking now. Yeah, patreon.com/Jackie Hern. And but hey, I know of another Patreon that's really awesome. It's patreon.com/galacticnet. I think I just donated to it this week, right?
Sounds about right, yeah. Galactic Netcasts.
Galactic Netcasts, yeah. So go there. Just give them money. It'll be more beneficial there.
Yes, exactly. Like Jackie said, go there. But also contact us. You can leave us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. Or you can send us mail at ElseNerds.com. That's, send mail to mail@ElseNerds.com. For all of our subscription links, you can go to gncast.com/subscribe. You can join our Facebook page over at facebook.com/GalacticNetcasts. Follow the show on Twitter at ElseNerds, the network at Galactic Netcasts. You could follow our producers. Evan is at Mr_Fusion. Beatmaster, who is also our Wrangler, is at Beatmaster80. You could find me at that Gregor, or on Instagram at Gregor1942. I'll be posting some fun nature things because I'll be going up to the Upper Peninsula and there's nothing but trees up there. And Corey, where can people find you?
Well, I'm going to sacrifice my where people can find me this week to help Jackie make good on her promise. Jackie, you were going to tell people about the food you were mentioning, the cat food.
Oh, you did not? Really? Thank you so much. It's called Darwin's Pets. You can go to Darwin Pet. I think it's Darwin's Pets or Darwin's Pets Food. I'm looking it up right now. It's Darwin's Pets on Twitter, at Darwin's Pets. So darwinpet.com, and they There's actually a documentary right now on Netflix that came out recently called Pet Fooled, and they explain, what is completely wrong with pet food. And, I thought I was buying the best pet food for my cats all these years, and I looked at the ingredients, like all the byproducts and corn and all this other stuff that was really just horrible for them, and threw it all out. I bought this stuff. They ship it to you. For $14.95 you get a 7-week supply of it. They send it to you with dry ice, and believe me, it arrived when the temperatures were in the 80s here. It arrived perfectly fine, and it was great. And my cat, I've got a little video I can show with you guys that I took a video of the cat eating the first meal of it, and my cat was making this noise like like that. I'm sorry to do that on the mic here because I know you guys
No.
but it was so yeah, it was amazing. These guys are great. They're great people. Not only that, I've been on the phone with them because they were worried about making the transition, because my cat is 18 years old and he's dying. He's dying left and right all over the place, and it makes my life fucking insane and crazy. But this pet food has given him like a little extra little pep, and I just wish I had found it 18 years ago. So Darwin's Natural Pet Food Products, they make raw dog and cat food. You can cook it if your cat or dog refuses to eat raw food, but it's made the natural goddamn way that these cats and dogs eat food, and it's perfect. And anyways, I don't get any goddamn money from them, but I love them to pieces, and it's the best thing to come in my life in the last 5 years. So
Yep.
thank you.
So
Thank you for letting me.
It's darwinspet.com is their website.
Yes.
And
Not a penny.
yes, not a sponsor. The other part, and go there. So the final thing to be said is this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you guys next week.
Or else.
We share embarrassing photos of Corey.
Oh shit! I didn't send you mine.
And I sent this strictly for you. That's me when I was in nursery school in a homemade Robin the Boy Wonder costume. Because they did not make or sell Robin costumes in the stores. So I had to have my grandmother make one for me. And yes, I am wearing pantyhose, which they told me were tights, underneath my little green shorts. Because they insisted that Burt Ward must be wearing tights on the show. So yeah, I was the only Robin in a room full of Batmen and one Wonder Woman, but they were all store-bought costumes, and I was the lone sidekick at my school.